So I'm Jhonatan Bringas. I'm a physician and one of the founders and the CEO of Lapsi Health.
I was told I wasn't allowed to leave Amsterdam until we've had a conversation, Jhonatan, but that's it's been years that we've caught up at events like this and on this side of the world. So I'm super grateful that we've been able to make the time to have a chat right now. For those unfamiliar with Lapsi, tell us a little bit more about what it is and the problem it solves.
So Lapsi is a company that does sound acquisition and sound analytics. We have a platform that combines the capture of sound from within the body, which we call auscultatory, and sound from the ambient. And then we are binding all that information with analytics to be able to deploy information for diagnostics, for decision-making, and for documentation.
Amazing. And so, Lapsi, I thought your launch was super cool. I can't remember when that was. That was, I think, in the last 12 months or so, or a little bit longer. But that made a bit of an impact.
It was in December, actually. So
right. Okay.
It hasn't been that long.
Yeah.
And it was a really good launch. We immediately got some traction. We made a very good amount of sales on that launch, and then we decided to develop our newest functionalities for the Keikku, and now we're relaunching it by the end of the summer, which should be almost by now.
Yeah, when this comes out. So talk to me through that journey in terms of that, like getting something out to market and making those sales, making iterations. You're kind of flying the plane and rebuilding it at the same time type thing. And that's the way all good kind of iterative solutions work. Walk me through that journey a little bit more and the why.
Well, one of the things that we realized was the stethoscope has been a companion to physicians and HCPs for a long time, since the 1800s. And we believe that the world doesn't necessarily need a new stethoscope, but it does need a new companion. A physician, the healthcare provider needs a new companion. But what is a new companion in 2025? It's not a stethoscope. It is a device that has these diagnostic opportunities and gives you those biomarkers, but that also is empowered by generative AI. Yeah. But it also helps you to automatize your work. But it also helps you to make decisions smartly, because this is where we are all heading. So when we thought about how do we make Keikku a medical companion, that's when the light bulb kind of like shined in our heads, and we were like, okay, we need to go back into the blueprint desk. And we need to finish this because it's almost there. And that's what we did with Keikku.
Yeah. And the types of healthcare providers or institutions or groups that may be interested in this, because, from my experience as well, clinicians can become very attached to the way they utilize a particular device. It becomes just the way they do things. So that whole process of taking people through that learning curve, I guess, because everyone, when they use something new, it's kind of like, oh, now this is slightly inefficient compared to how I was doing it before. But often with a new tool, you've got to use it differently to how you're using your old one. So that implementation and onboarding and helping clinicians get from just like not just doing the same amount of stuff as you were doing before, but doing it better. What's that kind of learning curve like with the solution? I
think that if it was only the digital stethoscope part, it probably what we saw is that it does take a little bit to adopt, specifically on some sites. For instance, when you say, okay, you need to use earphones instead of plugged earpieces, or there is a level of connectivity that has to happen for the artificial intelligence to be able to capture that information and analyze it. So those things are adoption required, let's say. However, when we add the functionalities that are needed by the doctors that actually saves them time and work, then that changes. So when we say, okay, now your Keikku also is capable of listening to your conversation, transcribe it and annotate it on the EHR, now that is time that just suddenly flies off their hands. And it's a different trade-off. It becomes a smart trade-off. Yeah. I'd rather adopt this and learn how to use it for 5 minutes, because I know this is going to save me maybe 5 minutes per consult.
Yes. It's like that kind of step, like you can utilize elements of a solution and kind of build on it as you go. What's that look like in this region? Because, I know that, you tell me, are there complexities around being a device and regulatory, and now it's got the AI element of it? Like, these are sometimes areas that people who want to move fast and build things will kind of try and skirt around or like trying to avoid because there's all that regulatory element that's involved. How deep do you have to go into that to be able to get this thing to market?
Well, let me tell you something. I think that we're in the right time to do iteration. Because the regulatory aspects of generative AI are not yet fully developed. Yeah. So for companies in the HealthTech space that want to start driving the generative AI revolution in this moment, they're going to find no limitations.
Yeah.
What happens later is that the regulation will stop you and you're going to have to start doing freezes of work. When you start having to freeze things to develop a new thing, then register it, then regulate it, then go to the next iteration, regulate it, and so on, then that's when development starts to become slow. So I actually feel that this is the right time for us to just run and don't look back.
Yeah. And is this the kind of solution that if I was to use I haven't fully thought through this analogy, so bear with me, but like individuals might buy like a really simple vehicle because they need to get from A to B if they need to drive. Like they'll get a Toyota Corolla back home. But then if they wanted like a fancier car, they'll get a European vehicle just because it's nicer and maybe it's got some extra functionality and all that kind of stuff. There are clinicians I know in Australia who, need to get through a lot of stuff. So like it's more about utility versus a tool that was probably just as capable, but it's kind of got some extra bells and whistles. Where does this sit on that whole kind of like allowing you to just supercharge what you do right up through to like being the premium for people who really love what they do, if you know what I mean? Or am I kind of on the wrong spectrum of like how people position this tool to be able to do their clinical work on a day-to-day?
Well, I think that the strategy that we're giving it is to be a tool that is needed more than a tool that is wanted.
Yes.
Although, of course, we want to be a tool that is wanted as well.
Yeah.
The premiumness of the solution, I don't necessarily believe this to be a premium device as much, although we do like to have good branding and a good feel. I think it's important for doctors to enjoy what they're doing, and there's this level of moments of delight in technology that are very important. I mean, Steve Jobs was one of those people that really advocated for moments of delight in electronics. Yeah. So I completely believe that moments of delight have to be there. On the other hand, we see that this is going to be one of those tools that just makes your life simpler. And it is a companion. You can take it everywhere. You can go to your doctor-to-doctor meetings and put it in the center and let it transcribe your conversation with you. You can take it to the patient and have doctor-patient conversations, let it listen to everything, deploy into the EHR. You can use it for a stethoscope, and the new iterations that will come out with more biomarkers in the future will only enrich the solution to a point in which we hope will be the only tool that a doctor will need.
As you mentioned that with Steve Jobs, I remember it was 2013 or something. I was using my BlackBerry for work, and it was like, messaging like this, and someone suggested using an iPhone. It almost felt a little bit like, why would you use an iPhone for work? And obviously now it's kind of like the much more common tool. It doesn't feel like you're using a premium tool necessarily, but it's still got all that functionality. So I can see that kind of comparison there. Lastly, look, I've seen you out and about having a lot of discussions here at Health Europe, and you're always, front and center in the conversations, which is great. What are the types of conversations that you're having the most here generally in Health Europe, and the stuff that you might be taking away?
Well, I've been also exploring and I've been seeing the new technologies myself. As a clinician, I'm always really intrigued of what's there and how can I do things better. Even if I don't practice anymore, I always remember how it was and what I could do now, in the future. I'm married to the chief medical officer of Lapsi, and she is a practicing physician. Yeah. And I'm also looking around and thinking, Diana would like this, Diana would like that. So in my opinion, I think there are a lot of new technologies that are coming to Europe that are being developed in Europe that are really making things way easier for patients and for doctors. So I am very amazed by the chatbots on the triage that Informatica has been developing, and I'm also very excited about the new developments for decision support tools that I've seen in the hallway in the back. So really fantastic things. I am hoping that hospitals in the Netherlands and the rest of Europe will adopt. I think that's the next step, right? We love to see the technologies, but how much of them and which is the percentage of them that will be actually implemented? Because to be honest, I still receive my lab results on the mail.
Yeah.
At home.
We do wear two different hats, right? There's the fun stuff we talk about here and then take it into our real world of healthcare. Do you think that the answer to getting some of these things in is you need those kind of courageous few clinicians, or at least more forward-thinking clinicians, to be able to bring these solutions in, demonstrate that it provides value, and then hopefully there's some scale that happens from bottom up? Or is it more of like you need the CIOs to come in and say, this is what we're using now? Because from my experience, that's not really how healthcare works. You can't do that from the top. You need to have the clinicians here.
Well, I'm also excited to see so many clinician founders.
Yeah.
If you just think about the development of technologies in medicine, and you look back to Patricia Bath, you look back to Laennec, and you look back to Dr. Gibbon, and all these amazing physicians that develop technologies. Most of the technologies in modern medicine were developed by doctors, So I think that it would be only doctors and HCPs, nurse practitioners, physician assistants that will determine the usage and the necessity of them. So definitely it will be leveraged by them. I don't think that the CMIOs, I'm sorry for the CMIO people that I know, I love you guys, but I don't know if they're going to be completely the decision makers on this in this space.